Welcome to Unjaded. Today I have a super fun session. I love these sessions. It is a group coaching session, and we are talking about growing your audience. So if you've joined us, I have 6 other entrepreneurs in the room with me, 7 other entrepreneurs in the room with me, and we are going to be talking about how to grow your audience. We're going to be talking about social media, your email list, your podcast, all of the things. I'll go through a little bit of content around that, and then the women that are here joining me on the call, we'll open it up for Q&A and conversation, and then you'll get to meet them all and follow along in their businesses. So it's a really fun call to be a part of. We have guests in the room. We have someone who helps people with microdosing. We have an online business manager. We have human design practitioners. We have a speaking coach, all of the things. So we are going to be talking about growing your audience. Welcome to Unjaded. I'm your host, Vicki Dixon. This is a podcast with a human design spin on building the life, the relationships, and the business that you were made for. Let's dive in. Why grow your audience? This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see in the online space is people who don't have an audience and are launching offers. It doesn't matter what kind of an offer it is. It doesn't matter if it's your free lead magnet, if it's a paid report that you've got going on, especially in the human design space, if it's a course or a coaching package, anything, and they don't have an audience. They don't have an audience to speak of. And then they get so discouraged because they feel like their launch failed or like nobody's buying their stuff. And we need an audience. It's just math. Business is just math. It's not personal. So we're going to go through that math a little bit today. We're going to talk about social media, but I really want you to understand that your business does not live and die on social media. There is so much other stuff that we can and should, even though I hate that should word, but that we can and should be doing to grow our businesses. I want us to be laser focused on the long game. So what is the long game in your business? The long game is your email list and anything with a search engine. So think podcast, YouTube, blogging, anything like that people can search. But your email list is gold. When we're talking about growing your audience, that's where we want to put the bulk of our efforts, even though we use social media to get there. We leave them the breadcrumbs on social media. So how I describe it in my world with clients is that social media is the welcome mat of your business. I consider your podcast or my podcast, it's like I'm in church. I'm, standing at the pulpit and I'm like, going off on these tangents and talking about teaching all of these things. That's your church or your auditorium. But your email list is like being in the kitchen at a house party. That's the way that I invite you to start thinking about your email list. It's that intimate. You're getting that intimate with your people. So let's go back to the math thing. I'm just actually going to quickly ask people here if you have an idea of the average conversion rate. Darcy is saying 2%. Darcy would be pretty accurate. Andrea is saying 1 to 2%. Yeah. So between 1 and 3% is actually the conversion rate that we can count on average. So that means that if you have 1,000 people on your Instagram and you're only talking about your offer on Instagram and you have 1,000 people following you and every single set of eyeballs sees your posts, then you could sell 10 of that offer. Yeah. People are going, wow. So no wonder we get discouraged, right? And we know that not everyone is seeing all of our posts. We absolutely know that not everyone is seeing all of our posts. That's the joy of social media, right? It's the game of the algorithm. Do you need 50,000 followers? No. And, I love to look at the metrics for this. There are a lot of people with big followings on social media who are not making any money. I worked with someone last month who had 20,000 followers and she was making less than $500 a month in her business. And, I feel like we tend to look at these big accounts and we think, oh gosh, when I have 10,000 followers, when I have 20,000 followers, what would it be like to have 50,000 followers? Well, take what you're doing now in your social media and times it by 50,000. And imagine what that would feel like. That many more DMs, that many more things to answer, all of those things, right? If they're real followers. And I'm going to ask somebody on the call today to share a little trick about looking for chatbot followers on your feed, because that's a thing too, right? Having fake followers. So the flip side of that is that I've worked with many people who have way less than 1,000 followers and are making a 6-figure income, way less. Like one of the clients that I worked with had 339 followers on Instagram, and she was consistently making a 6-figure income a year. So over $100,000 a year. Kevin Kelly, that's a resource that I always like to go back to is Kevin Kelly. His book is 1,000 True Fans. So good. Because we need to think about building relationships with our true fans. We need to think about actually being somewhat semi-available to our true fans, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be on all the time. I had someone comment on one of my Instagram posts this week, like, what do you think of posting and ghosting? Can I just post and ghost? I don't really want to be here. Well, if you don't really want to be, I mean, none of us, I don't think very many of us love to be on social media 24/7. You don't have to do that. But you also don't want the energy of, oh my God, I hate being here. I don't want to be here with my people, right? Because people can feel that on an energetic level. So one of the ways that you move from the 1% to the 3% and beyond, Juliana is on the call today, and I saw her pop in the chat that she had a 6% conversion rate on her launch, which is absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing. But that tells me that she has built a relationship. I'm on her email list, and I know that she is building relationships. She is letting people peek inside and get to know her in her emails. That's an amazing conversion rate. And that's how we win. We win by keeping it interesting. We win by bringing people with us on the journey. That's how we increase our conversion rate, not by posting and ghosting, not by just, dumping any old kind of content into the algorithm, hoping that it gets seen. So when I talk about social media, why do you think people go to social media? You can pop it in the chat or you can unmute if you'd like. Why do you go to social media? Inspiration and fun, validation, connection, information and connection. Because I have to. I'm spoken like an entrepreneur. Nobody is saying, I go to social media to be sold to. I go to see what's available for sale. I go to shop. I go to be preached to. Nobody's saying that. People don't go to social media for that, right? They go to be social. So give them a show. I can't remember whose course it was that I was in. There's so many with my 4816 channel in human design, and she said, like, it's the Vicky show. It's the Lorianne show. It's the Darcy show. Like, think of it. It's your own syndicated show. Like if somebody was tuning in, like say they're back in the day, a Cheers fan or a Three's Company fan or something. If they're watching, they're going to watch that every week, right? I know now we can binge with Netflix, but they're going to go and they're going to watch that every week. Why? Because they are attached to the story of the characters. So let them get to know you. It doesn't have to be your whole life. You can absolutely keep parts of your life completely that you never show anyone, but they're following you because you're a real person. So bring them along on your journey and make it fun and valuable. I once heard a coach say that we really want people coming to our feeds and saying, oh my God, why aren't millions of people following this person? Why isn't everybody following her? The stuff that she's providing is so good. And so good doesn't mean that you have to give away everything for free. But what we want to be doing is letting people see that we have the solution for the issue that they're facing. You want to show up and give enough information that they understand, she's got what I need. She knows what she's talking about, and I know that she can help me. So after this episode, take a minute and look at your own feed, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. Look at your own feed or other things. I know people have TikTok and all kinds of other things. Look at your feed and see, am I showing up as a resource? Am I talking with my people or am I talking at my people? Because if we're just, preaching and telling it, and I mean, certain profile lines can get away with that in human design, specifically fifth line profiles are really good at that. But for most of us, we are building relationships with people. And then ask yourself, would you follow you? Would you be drawn to your feed and follow along with the information that you're giving or the inspiration that you're giving or any of the things that you're doing there? We want to build deep relationships, offer real guidance, and be useful. We want it to be that when someone sees something that we have posted, they stop and go, oh, there she is. I need to just take a look and see what she's talking about today because I know she's going to help me. People are busy and we need to earn their attention, especially on social media is so noisy. So how we do this best, in my opinion, is by leaning into our human design superpowers. We absolutely have superpowers within our human design. We get to show up and use all of our gifts and talents. We get to stand in who we are. And the trouble is that is most often the place where we hold ourselves back because it's the thing that we've been told is wrong with us. The superpower that we have, this gift that we have that nobody else has, because nobody else has the same superpower as you. It's the thing that you've been most conditioned away from. So the challenge is to be able to understand your human design and actually use it in your real life so that you do the thing that you came here to do. You say the thing you came here to say, and you have the impact that you came here to have. Another faux pas that I see people making is waiting for a magical moment, a magical number of followers, some thing for the stars to align with in order to launch their thing or in order to start talking about the thing that they actually sell. So they sit back and say, when I have X number of followers, when the moon is in the whatever, when the sun's transits through whatever, over and over and over again. And then they never launch anything, right? Because they're always waiting for the perfect time. So we don't want to be that person. We can sit back and think, oh my gosh, I don't want to be too salesy. I don't want to be too pushy. I don't want to be always talking about my stuff that I have for sale. So when you fall into that trap of thinking that, I would love to invite you to think or understand that you are the only person who sees 100% of your stuff. Nobody else. We would be lucky if 50% of people saw our stuff. We should be shouting from the rooftops if 25% of people see our stuff. Nobody but us sees all of our stuff. So we're not overselling. We're not talking about our things too much. If, say that you have a human design report for sale and you talk about it once a month. Well, maybe 40 people saw that if you have 1,000 people on your feed, maybe if you're lucky, if you have an email list and 45% of your people open it, then that's the number of people that are seeing it. Like not everybody is seeing that you have that offer for sale and then you never talk about it again. And this actually happens in business where we have one thing and we put it out once and nobody buys it or one or two people buy it and we think, well, that's done. Now I'm off to create something else. Here I go. They didn't want that. I better make them a different report. I better make them a different lead magnet. I better work on another mini course to be able to sell. When we just didn't give it any space, we didn't talk about it enough. So we need to be putting things out there over and over and over again. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to get into the habit of setting up a schedule where, say, Thursdays are your day that you're going to promote this product. Mondays are your day that you're going to talk about this. And it doesn't have to be the same. It shouldn't be the same post. It can be you talking live one day. It can be you interviewing a past client. It can be sharing a testimonial and then making the offer during that at the end of that. So as you're building your welcome out of your business, AKA your social media, be laser focused on the long game because the long game is what counts. Like I think it was in 2020 that we could get 6 hours out of an Instagram post. And I'm saying Instagram, you may be using Facebook, but I'm an Instagram girl. So, but 6 hours. So it's something that you're just always feeding the beast, right? Whereas when you focus on the long game, like your podcast, your YouTube channel, your email list, your blog, your Pinterest, even your LinkedIn to some degree, then that's content that's going to last. It's going to stand the test of time because people can actually search it. Use your social media to grow those audiences. Drive people there so that you can keep them in your world because social media is fickle. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was last summer when Instagram, I think it was that long ago when Instagram and Facebook and all of the channels went down for a day or 2 days or something like that. And everybody was panicking, absolutely panicked. And there are a lot of people who run their business solely on social media. Don't build an email list. Don't have any other way to reach them. Imagine if it disappeared tomorrow. Because for those of us that are in the human design space, this is not fear mongering. It's just, I'm very curious about what is going to happen to a lot of these systems that are in place as we step closer to the 2027 mutation. It will be interesting to see how we can already feel a shift in the market. Absolutely. We can feel things shifting in the market. Okay. So grow your own audience where you own the platform, and the only place that you own your platform is your email list. So how are you going to do that? Number one, show up consistently. And consistently does not mean every day, but at some sort of a schedule, at least weekly. There is a duo, I think they're called the Email Marketing Guys. And I learned a lot from them actually a few years ago. And they send an email every single day. Now, you don't have to do that. What I would love to invite you to consider is, again, the math. So if you send a monthly email, which I hope none of you are sending a monthly email, but if you send a monthly email, people only have 12 times to interact with you throughout the year. If you send a weekly email, that goes up to 52 times. Bi-weekly email, you're over 100 times. So it keeps you top of mind, right? There's a lot of things competing for your ideal client's attention. So how can you insert yourself into their life in a way that is useful and valuable and building a relationship? Offer value, build relationships, be intentional about what you're sharing and why. So build a lead magnet that makes people want to come into your world. So many times I see people so a lead magnet is something that you will use to grow your email list. And often I see people creating something just, oh, well, I'll just get it done. I'll just throw this up there and I'll get it done. And it's something valuable for them. And it has nothing to do with actually how they help people. It's really important that it makes sense for the things that you're offering and for the type of business you have, that you have a lead magnet that matches that. And you want to be really intentional. You want to give them value. If you need to build a lead magnet, you can listen back to episode 61 of the Unjaded podcast. It's all about creating lead magnets. And then bring them through a welcome sequence that provides value and lets them know who you are and why they should follow along. What problem are you actually going to solve for them? What issue do you help them with or through? And then don't just show up when it's time for a sale. We've all been on those email lists, right? Where we don't hear from the person for months, and then it's time for a launch and we hear from them every day for 6 weeks. And you just don't want to be that person, right? You're building a relationship. Remember, it is the kitchen at a house party. So what happens in the kitchen at a house party? Everyone gathers in the kitchen, even when you don't want them gathering in the kitchen, even when they're under your feet. You just got to throw up your hands and be like, okay, they're here with me. And the best conversations happen in that kitchen. Everybody's picking at the food. Everybody's chipping in. People are getting to know each other on a deeper level. That is your email list. And you can't have that kind of relationship with your email audience if you are just showing up when it's time that you want them to buy something. So I'm going to give you a little tip for writing emails, because this is something that people are always like, oh my God, how do you write emails? Simple 3-part structure. Tell a story, teach a lesson, invite an action. So the action can be anything. It can be reply. It can be, has this ever happened to you? It can be to buy a thing. It can be to join a community. It can be to follow you on Instagram, anything. Tell a story, teach a lesson, invite an action. Remember that they're in the kitchen for you. As personal brands, we get to do it differently. The way that we beat the big brands is with personal touch, is with building that relationship with people. And of course, there are some big brands that do this absolutely beautifully, but not all of them. So we get to grow our audience with intention. And the more touch points that we can have, the greater those conversion rates are going to be when we do have something to offer. Julie and I hope she'll share when we open it up for everyone to discuss, but with a 6% conversion rate, you know that she was building relationship with her people. You know that she was showing up over and over and over again with value that brought them into her world. So I'm going to open it up for questions and conversation now about growing your audience. Who wants to start? Lorianne.
So I saw this on Instagram with a woman that I follow, and I haven't seen anything from her in probably years. And she shared this, how to get rid of, Instagram added a new feature, how to get rid of those bots or suspicious accounts. So I went in and did this. So you go into your account, tap on your followers, so the number that's up towards the upper right-hand corner, and up will come up all of your followers. And there's at the very top, it will list, like, do you want to know all the suspicious accounts? That's not the exact wording, but you can remove them. What I did is that I have under 2,000 followers, and it found 200 suspicious accounts. So I was able to just kind of like flick through and just look at them to see, are they suspicious accounts? And I think I only noticed one human that I know of, but if he's not interacting with me, then like, I don't need to, he doesn't need to be a follower. So I was just like, sorry, I drew a line in the sand and I just let 200 people go. So I'm curious now what's going to happen this week, how many more people are actually going to see my content as I write differently and engage with my audience like humans. Because I mean, I saw her post, her reel, and I never see her stuff. So let's all get rid of those computer bots from our Instagram.
Thank you for sharing that. I can see every head that's live on this call is down looking at our phone. So mine says flagged for review. And that's something too that I think is really important to remember aside from this part of the conversation. So we should all be doing this on our phones for sure. But aside from that, a lot of times people say to me, well, I'm afraid to show up because whatever. Like I completely delete or block people that I don't want following me. Like, I mean, we're all women on this call. I'm sure that we've all had the creepy men asking us to be our friends and they're following us on Instagram and all of this stuff and the fake accounts. So, I mean, full permission to just like get rid of all of that stuff. That's important because if it makes us feel safer to show up, right? And like Lorianne's saying, she saw that lady's content that she hadn't seen before or hadn't seen in a while. So thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate you doing that. Anybody else?
This is Sarah. I would love to know more about like building the relationships with your email list? Like what are some ways to do that?
Sure. And your profile, your human design profile is a 6-2.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So for you, just because you're in the content by design course, so I know a little bit more about your design because I get my eyeballs on it a lot. But for you, it's a lot. The phase that you're in right now is a lot about integrating your lessons. And as a manifesting generator, so I think when we go back to our human design for creating content, no matter what kind of content we're creating, it's always going to be the stuff that lands the most. So whatever you're in response to. So you focus on microdosing. So what are you in response to in your life? So you can tell a story that doesn't have to do with microdosing, but then you teach a lesson. So you bring it around to the microdosing, and then you invite an action. Like people want to, with a personal brand, they want to get a glimpse behind the curtain. They want to see what life is really like. And we can do that by bringing them along with things that we're, as manifesting generators, we're here to respond to. And then a lot for you with this profile, the 6-line profile of integrating life's lessons. Like how are you, especially with your microdosing? Like I'm seeing you talk about this a lot in your content now. And don't worry, if you're listening in, I will give you, Sarah will be shouting out her account. So you'll be able to follow along with her and hear all about the stuff that she's doing. But you do talk about how you have integrated the lessons that you have learned through doing this in order for others to learn from it, which is the perfect way for a 6-line to show up.
Awesome.
How often are you emailing? Or how often do you want to email?
Well, I want to email once a week.
Okay.
I think, yeah, 2 once. I mean, I started another protocol for myself, so I'm already learning things and now I know what to look for, right? So it's like, I feel like I can integrate the lessons even sooner as I'm going through it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And you'll be able to, what I would be doing now is keeping track. I know you keep track, but keeping track, like have a notebook or in your phone or however you want to keep track, but anything that you get that you're responding to, and also any of these little things that you're learning that's like, oh, that hasn't happened before on a journey. I want to talk about that later. You don't have to talk about it now, but it'll give you something to respond to again when you're ready to write those emails. And you may find that you could sit down and crank out like 6 or 8 emails in a row once you get through this part of your journey.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a suggestion for you in the chat as well, Sarah. Andrea is saying a mini email series idea, a glimpse into a journal of someone you're guiding before, initially, and a few midpoints, and then the result at the end. That would be kind of cool, like a sneak peek behind the scenes. Okay, so Mandy is asking in the chat, can I do the same question as a 4? So for a 4-6 reflector for creating emails?
Yes, for like building the relationship and building the connection. I really liked how that question was posed and how you responded to her question. So I was just curious from a 4-6 reflector point of view.
Sure. So 4-6s, I feel like 4-6s have it cornered on the building connection and community. It's crazy. When I watch 4-6s move through life, and I have a few of them in my life, I'm just always like, because my 4th line, I'm a 2-4. So my 4th line is unconscious. So I'm not super aware of that energy. But when I see someone with a conscious 4th line profile, it's like you lead for your community, and it is magical to watch how you can have connections. So I think it's only natural for you to connect in a way that's real and meaningful. And remember, for you, it's also about reflecting back to your community what you're seeing. So what is present for you right now? What are you seeing right now that your community needs to hear from you? You mentioned before this call that you're doing a challenge on Instagram that I know you're going to shout out afterwards as well. But what are you seeing? What's coming up for you in that? And how can you kind of evaluate what's happening and give that back in your emails? So your social might be where it's kind of on the surface level, but then in your email, you can go a little bit deeper. And I love my people on my email list. It's my favorite thing in my business. And I love to give them extras. Like I want them to know you're getting this because you're here. So maybe I talked like on the surface of some topic on social media, but I'm going to go really deep with you here because you're in my kitchen with me. Does that help?
That was super helpful. I love like the going deeper with the connection through giving the extras, through like you get a whole lot more bells and whistles and depth in following me on my email list and just like little nuggets on social.
And remember too that you're welcome, that your email list, they are the people that are going to convert more easily into your offers. Guaranteed, they're the people who are going to buy your offer before someone on social media. That I can't say guaranteed. That has been my experience. That is where the deep connection happens. They're the people that are with you. Like I've got people who've been on my email list for over 20 years. Like damn straight, if I put something out there that's going to help them with their human design, they're going to buy it before someone who's been following me for a month on social media and sees like the odd post, the odd thing that I post. They know me. And I mean, that's part of the second line as well, right? Is that I bring them along with me. That's part of that, part of my own design, but we all have that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Who else? Juliana, yay.
I have two things. I'll just comment on the 3-5 and sharing and my experience with receiving the 6% conversion rate. And then I have a question about socials. I'm a 3-5 projector. And what I've really found helpful is I'm a transitioning psychotherapist into spiritual guide. And what I noticed as a therapist is that when I shared my like foibles and fumbles in life, my clients would just be like, oh my goodness, really? Is that okay? Like you experienced that too? And then I started bringing that more into my newsletter. And I share like the last one I did, I share very, very real stuff, like very real stuff. I just got inspired by our topic for my next newsletter. And when I did my free launch, I brought all of that stories of me with every section that I was teaching about in. So people were like, it really brought them into my 3-5 line, which I think really builds the connection, which is very cool because I really like telling those stories. So I think that really helped that conversion.
And I love when 3-5s show up like that. It's been so conditioned out of you to show up as it is, because it's like, so the third line, the 3-5 profile, my friend Juliana told me one time that it is unhinged, that she heard it described as unhinged. And I have a granddaughter who's a 3-5 and a son who's a 3-5. So I can definitely see that. And I watched the unshamed version of this 3-5 4-year-old compared with the older versions of people who I work with who are 3-5 profiles. And it's crazy to see the difference, because that is where you have the most conditioning, but where you have the most conditioning is where you can bring it to light, right? I mean, and it's beautiful when third line profiles show us their mistakes. And I'm putting that in air quotes. I love it. So thank you for doing that. And it's paying off. It's working because people are following along with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. So my question is, you mentioned something about one of the people that you work with who hates being on one platform. And I've been playing with this for years around that should. And I know you and I talk about shoulds a lot, the should around Instagram. And I have such a physical reaction to being on that platform that does not feel good for me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go off it. I'm going to shift. I'm going to focus on YouTube and maybe play around on TikTok because it just feels more free there. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should just stay on Instagram because I've worked so hard to get like the 1,000 followers that I have in the last, since I did my launch. So maybe I should. And then I got a message from my business coach because I'd messaged her on Instagram and my profile is flagged. I've been shadow banned and it's flagged. And so I kind of took it as this message from the universe, meaning like, you don't need to be on Instagram. But my question for you, Vicky, is around this, because so much of socials feels challenging for me, to show up consistently, to find a devotional time where you create content. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts or how someone can find a platform that actually feels good and how you can develop this better relationship with the socials world.
That's a really good question. I love the question. Thank you for that. And I feel like I want to say to you, you already know the answer about Instagram.
Yes. That's true.
The answer is in the question. So I think that you already know that. And if you enjoy TikTok, then go for it. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know anything about it, but I mean, I know a lot of people are having a blast over there, and we don't have to be on social. So yes, it can be a faster way to grow our businesses, but maybe you're not someone who needs to grow fast. Maybe you're someone who's going to work with these 6 or 10 people in a really, really deep, meaningful way. And instead of having all of these other side conversations, like, 'cause social media can be a lot too, right? It can be a lot of several people messaging and engaging with you and all these things, which is amazing. And also they can be the people who are never going to go deeper with you. It can be very surface level. And I know just from what I know about you that you're not really here for surface level stuff. Like, you're here to go deeper on stuff. And then, I mean, you can build a whole business by the long game. Do you like Pinterest?
I have not played on Pinterest. What I'm feeling is, because I love my YouTube channel, and I feel like I just need to be like, the people who are on my YouTube channel are like, I get regular comments and from old videos that I've done. And so I'm feeling like YouTube, and then I have a Pinterest course that I haven't actually done to figure out how to do it properly. That can be engaging.
Okay. So, I mean, the YouTube thing, I mean, you can see your energy shift when you talk about your YouTube channel. And I mean, I wish that I was drawn to YouTube. I wish that I could have a better presence there, because it is amazing for content. Like, that is a great place to be. And people are, I mean, that's where people are searching for things, right? Second to Google. So if you only want to do YouTube, and your Pinterest can link to your YouTube videos, so that over time, you're just driving more and more and more people to your YouTube channel. Like, I made the decision in my business this year that my podcast is the driver. My podcast is the thing that I am going to put my all into. And then whatever else I can do, I can do. So if that was YouTube for you, and you just, and I mean, your IG can just say, follow along on YouTube. That can be your bio. Follow along on YouTube. Here's the link. That's it. And that's where you are, unapologetically. Because if you love being there, your energy is going to be absolutely off the charts there.
Yeah, that feels good. And I like the reflection that, like, my energy shifted when I started talking about YouTube versus Instagram, and even TikTok. TikTok's a should too. Oh, I should just go over there.
And you have a really engaged email list that you have worked really hard to bring people into your kitchen, and they're going to respond. That's where you launch from anyway. Like, I know you're talking on Instagram and you're doing talking head videos and all that when you're in a launch, but I see you showing up more in your email to bring people with you into their next level.
For sure. I love my email list. I love writing emails. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I offer that something I'm seeing on Instagram a lot, because I'm primarily there, is when people want to be more present on other platforms, so say YouTube, there's like a teaser in their bio now where the first line is like what you do or who you serve and what the solution is. But then that second line is like, if you want to connect with me, or if you really want to hang out, if you really want the behind the scenes, like a hook, hang out with me here. And then the link is to take you either like onto the email list or your YouTube. So it like drives the people who are following you there that like the reels and the quick stuff to come into your preferred platform. So I think that's kind of cool. It's gotten me a few times.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay. Anybody else before we give a shout out to where to find people that are on the call? Darcy?
So my question has to do with using the human design chart as a lead magnet. How would you really focus and utilize that, both with social media and then with the email stuff?
Okay. So in my human design practice, the human design chart has been the best lead magnet I have ever had. My second best performing lead magnet of all time was a quiz, and it worked absolutely magically. But the human design chart is phenomenal as a lead magnet because people want it. And then you bring them through a welcome sequence that explains something about their chart in order to bring them into your world. And then your email list, in your email list, you are teaching, for lack of a better word, but the lessons you're sharing are actually about human design. And so some of the things that you'll say, if you follow along on my emails, you'll see sometimes I'll put the picture of the human design chart and I'll circle the piece that I'm talking about. So even if I'm talking about something in my life, I'll go like, here's where you find it in your own design, so that you're always bringing it around to them so that they can follow along. And in your socials, it is in your, so I know, Darcy, from working with you in Content by Design, that you are speaking to mostly women who are in a disruptive phase in their life. They're going through a divorce, they're having a situation fall apart in their life, something like that. So I would be speaking to bring them through that lead magnet in a way that lets them know that that's the answer. So, your life is falling apart at the seams. This is your biggest clue to who you're here to be and what you're here to do. this is the answer. So it's not the human design chart, it's the answer to the problem. It's the first step.
I was trying to get that to apply. And so bringing it around to the answer.
Yeah, it's the bridge that's going to help them get through to the next phase, from the disruption they're in to the next thing that's there for them. All right. Anybody else? Okay, we are going to do a little bit of a round robin here, and I'm going to ask these beautiful women who are on the call with me today, these entrepreneurs, to share where you can follow along in their world and find them. So we are going to start with Lori Ann.
I'm Lori Ann Mirabito. I am the host of the Be in Demand podcast, and it is a podcast for public speaking skills for coaches, consultants, and service providers who want to use speaking as their best form of marketing. The best place to find me on whatever social you enjoy the most is just to go to my website, which is speakandstandout.com.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, Andrea.
Hey, my name is Andrea Slate, and I am an online business manager that specializes in systems and scaling. So I love getting my hands in the back end of things to help you grow your vision to its grandest reality. And you can find me on Instagram. That's where I like to hang out at the Andrea Slate. And you know I'm going to say this. I had to put the in front of it because my name says Andrea's late to most people, and that's not my vibe. So the Andrea Slate.
Thank you. Juliana.
Hello, I am Juliana Christine. I am a human design specialist and somatic and spiritual counselor to sensitive souls. And using human design and somatic and spiritual work, we help sensitives reclaim their superpower and essentially change the world. I believe sensitivity is here to change the world. And you can find me on my YouTube at Juliana Christine. Search YouTube and type in Juliana Christine and you'll find me there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I hope that as you're listening to the podcast, you're doing a great big clap for Juliana as well, that she said YouTube and not Instagram. Amazing. Sarah.
Thanks, Vicki. I am Sarah Mertzleft, the microdosing wing woman. You can find me on Instagram, and I am here to help you through your microdosing journey.
Thank you for being here. And if you're following on my socials at all, this will have ended by the time this episode airs, but Sarah has been my wing woman for my first microdosing journey. And the squarest square person on the planet has started a microdosing journey. And it's been interesting. And I've been very thankful to have a wing woman. So thank you for being here and for helping me through this. It's different than you would expect it to be. That's all I'll say. Maybe we'll do an episode about microdosing someday. Okay, so Darcy.
Hi, I am Darcy Lynn, and I help women going through the disruptions in their life to help them discover who they are as things are falling apart for them. And you also is a human design specialist, so we really utilize the human design chart in discovering, their purpose and meaning in life. And so you can find me at Darcy Lynn Phoenix Tracy on Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will link all of these handles in the show notes for you. Mandy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Mandy Picey, and that's Paysse. And I help thought leaders and community builders with intentional branding. I help with their marketing based off of their design, and I also build show up websites. But right now I'm starting a 30-day Instagram challenge. And so you can find me there at Mandy Picey.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to give a shout out to Stacy. Stacy Estrella is no longer here. She got booted off the call somehow with her Wi-Fi. And I'll see if I can remember. Her brand is Mastering Your Human Design. And she makes human design 3 things. And I can't remember the first thing, but the last 2 are simple and fun. Smart, simple, and fun. Something simple and fun. She has a really cool brand where she has renamed all of the channels for human design into everyday language. But I know that she is Mastering Your Human Design on Instagram. So you can give her a follow there. She's a really fun human design brand to follow. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening in. If you are a regular listener, I so appreciate you being here week after week. And if you're new to the podcast, I hope that you enjoyed this group coaching call. We do these about once a month, and the link will be in the show notes to book your spot on the next one.